Push Fed podcast in full effect. We got a very special guest in here today. We got some young, hungry real estate guys in here. We got Garrett Smallz. He's a real estate agent from the Stephen Cooley Real Estate Group. Did I say it right?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Then we got Damian Tavares. He's been in wholesale investments since 2018. So they're going to be giving y'all some great knowledge about real estate today. So, guys, I just wanted to get your aspect on what's the difference between a real estate agent and an investor.
You want to go ahead on that one?
Yeah. Well, the major difference is as an agent, you list houses for other people. You don't have any ownership in the properties that you list. For the most part, you can list your own houses technically, but as an agent, you do either list houses or represent the buyer for a house that's most of the times on the market. As an investor, I'll let you add to that if you want to, because I'm not an agent, but just as an investor or a wholesaler, we're buying properties, whether they're houses, multifamily properties, we're buying them as an investment. We're buying them to make money from them. Whether it's short-term or long-term, the focus is to get a return on your investment. So it's a lot different.
Yeah, I mean, basically what he just said. I mean, as a real estate agent, you're working with investors too and buyers, but you're not really putting anything into your name, yourself. I'm either helping you buy your home or someone sell their home to move somewhere else. And as an investor too, like you said, that's what I would like to kind of get into, where I'm actually buying something for me that's going to make me money long term. It's going to make a residual income for myself, rather it be a flip for a chunk of money or something that's going to make month to month income.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much covered it.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, y'all. I just keep looking at y'all, right? Y'all looking really nice right now, and I'm feeling
with the full suit,
and I'm feeling really bad right now because y'all looking really dapper right now. Like y'all just came off.
Hey, I took the tie off before I came in here.
Oh,
like,
so
I'm
just
gonna chill out a little bit. Yeah.
so you just cooled out on the flex a little bit. Okay,
hey, man. It's Saturday night. You gotta. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you gotta dress how you feel.
Dame looking real investment like.
I thought he was about to sell me something. Like
Yeah,
I just might.
Like
leave.
Dame about to come around, check the crawl space, but still he look really good at while doing it. No, but so what are some of the strategies in the wholesale investment, Dame?
So the basic strategies are just to target like motivated sellers. Whether it's people who are behind on their mortgage, either they can't make their payments or they have taxes that they weren't able to pay, or landlords who don't want to rent out their houses anymore. The other aspect is like people who own houses that don't have the money to fix it up themselves. Mm-hmm. You pretty much want to target, motivated people who want to sell their house and they want a lot of convenience to do it. Mm-hmm. So listing a house does take time. In certain areas, certain markets, they have these averages that tell you like how long a house usually takes to sell on the market. Mm-hmm. And if you live in an area where your house usually takes 90 days to sell on the market, you might not have 90 days. Right. You might be facing foreclosure. You might be behind on your payments, or you might just be stressed out. Or like I said, you might just want the convenience. You don't want to go through a 90-day process. So like a wholesaler could step in, help you sell your house within 30 days or less usually. Even if it's 40 days, that's still almost less than half than maybe what your area is called for. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much the strategy with wholesaling. You approach the seller, whether it's through marketing or just organically. Once you get in contact with them, you want to negotiate a price that you'll be able to sell it for more. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a lot of freedom in that, whether you're selling it for $1 more or you're selling it for $1 million more. You're going to be able to sell it for more. So once you negotiate a price with the owner, then you find someone who will buy it from you for more. And that's pretty much the wholesale fee that you'll get is the difference between the two.
Right. And then so how can an agent be involved in like the whole investment aspect of it?
What do you mean by
in doing the deal? And because I know there's some stipulations because there's like no assignment fees when you're dealing with agents and stuff like that, or you're dealing with foreclosures or so. Like it really just depends. So how can an agent be a help or an asset to like an investor?
So for like him being a wholesaler, like if me and him were to link up, like for say Charlotte area or so he can find these properties for me because I have the MLS where like I'll go on there and I'll find properties that are already on the multiple listing service. Right. And a lot of investors are looking for things that are off MLS. Mm-hmm. And people like him can bring those to me. I can give that insight to all of my buyer investors that are looking for that exact type of property. And I can say, hey, man, my guy here just sent this over to me. Here's the deal. We've already kind of estimated a little bit of the repair cost in there, and this is kind of what your return could look like on it. Mm-hmm. So he's already figured out what he's going to make on his assignment doing that wholesale. They're good with the price. It all makes sense to everybody. I just bring him that buyer. Mm-hmm. And the contract gets assigned to my new buyer, and he'll make his profit, and my buyer will be able to start doing his investment on it. If he's going to flip it, if he's going to make it a rental, whatever the case is. But I'm just bringing that attention to him.
Mm-hmm. And then as far as that, like getting like those off market properties, what is the like the difference between the off market and the on market type of properties?
Because like as an agent, I mean, I would say the majority of us, I mean, everything we do is from MLS.
Right.
I mean, every property I sell, every buyer that I get them into something is from MLS. And so it's like almost having like that extra tool in your belt that not a lot of people have. So it's almost like a bragging thing to say, like, if I have a good wholesaler, like that's a big reason to use me because there's not a lot of people who can say they have that. And so, you know, being able to have investor clients that I meet with and saying, hey guys, like I also work with wholesalers in the area. That brings value to myself. They're going to want to talk to me and keep up with me because I'm going to keep them in the loop with people like him to buy these properties that other people can't find. Because anyone right now in the Charlotte MLS can find the same things I can find on MLS, but not everyone can find what he's got all outside of that.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And by the way, these guys are really young in the game too, like 25, right? 26, and these guys are eating up. What you just got an award recently, right?
Yeah, in February.
Yeah.
I got top agent in February.
Ooh. Killing it,
right?
Man.
Killing it.
Thank you.
Killing it.
Yeah, sure.
And Dame been living the life too. He been popping bottles all like.
Sometimes you gotta live it up, man.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, you know how Instagram is. You post like your good times, but you know when you're not on there, you got to put in the work. And then when you want to relax or you want to have fun, go for it.
Right.
You know, show out whatever you want to do.
Right. And so, what is your ultimate goal as an agent to help people? Like, because I think a lot of people think when you're trying to sell them something, you're always in it for yourself, and you can probably add it too. When you're talking to a motivated seller, they're thinking, "Oh, he's just a shark. He's just trying to, you know, take what I have, and then for whatever, which is, you know, America. You know, we get something low and then sell it for a profit because, you know, it's America. That's how business works. But so, what is your ultimate goal as a agent, and what is your ultimate goal as an investor?
I mean, I think it really just boils down to, like, for one, the passion I have for it. It doesn't just come from like making a money from just selling a house. I mean, like, you know, because you can do a lot of things to make income, and I sold cars for 3 years and you know, made money on each transaction, but I really didn't have a passion for it. It was really the whole process of like helping the client, helping the people, and like when I meet the client, I would always say to everybody, it's always more than a transaction. You're not just helping someone buy a house. Like, for instance, I have a client, I moved here from New Jersey, you know, like it was a huge chapter change in their life, coming from New Jersey here to the Carolinas, bringing their whole family here. You know, you're really making a big impact on these people's lives, and they're using you to do this. And so there's a lot that goes involved into it, and especially like work with investors, like the clients that I'm working with that are building their rental and portfolios. I'm helping someone while I'm watching them do something like I'm dreaming of doing as well, like building my rental portfolio, and watching them do it and helping them do it is going to help me in my future also do the same. And I'm going to learn along the way doing it. So,
yeah, I mean, for me, when it comes to wholesaling, like just the wholesaling portion, I got two main goals. Like the first one is to provide, you know, an unmatched service to the seller. You know, not many places can you get a return on your house or sell your house or literally wake up one day on day one and wake up on day 30 or day 21 with, you know, 6 figures in your account or whatever your house could sell for. So you'll get that service from me. I'll make the process as easy as I can for you. Mm-hmm. You won't have to do much but sign where you know you're supposed to sign. You won't have to do. You'll get a fair offer. You know, I'm not the type of person to chase down people and then lowball them. I mean, in my markets, you can't even do that anyway. So I'm pretty much having to offer you the best you can get anyway. And I'm providing that service for you to make sure you're taken care of. You know, I pride building relationships, even if it's short term. You know, I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to make sure that you know exactly what's going on. You gain some education along the way if that's your preference. You know, I do try to teach the sellers as well what's going on about the closing process if they've never sold a house before. Sometimes it's their first house and then they're selling it. So now you need to learn, how to sell a house. You bought one, then it's your turn to sell it. So you got to learn here too if you want to. So I'm just providing that service. And then on the other end, it's the buyers. Like when you're wholesaling a house, these guys, like he was talking about, those investors that he works with, they don't have access to these houses unless I bring them to them. They're not going to sit there all day and call people, text people, and ask them if they want to sell the house. They're not going to go out in the community and say, hey, if you need help selling a house, talk to me. A lot of those guys, sometimes they got big money, as you call it. Sometimes they're institutions. Sometimes they're also just local guys like us, but they just don't have the time or the means to go out and find people. So without me, they wouldn't have access to this long list of investment properties. They would just be like, where do I find houses? Like, I want to be in real estate, but where do I find them? Right. So that's my other goal, is to provide a service to them as well. Mm-hmm. I'm that kind of that pipeline guy. I'm not the only one, but I'm just saying, like, those are my two goals when it comes to wholesaling.
And so when you're educating them, like, so what's kind of like some key terms that you guys like, would want somebody to know when like they're buying a house or, going through the process? What's like some of the kind of key terms that you could, or just in general educating them? Like, what's kind of like, what do you say to them?
I mean, like, depending on like where they're at in their process, if they're beginners or experts, but like, at least like for myself, it's knowing the market. I day in, day out, I'm studying the market. I know what's going on in Charlotte. I know what's going on in Gastonia. I know what's going on in Rock Hill. I'm putting 12 hours plus a day into knowing every little detail I can about what's selling, what's buying, what the markets looks like, where it's going. And being able to provide that to clients and people that's coming in there, like, hey, like when we're going to a buying situation, like this is where things are looking like right now. This is how selling's going about. For instance, like if I'm selling a house, I'm telling sellers right now, hey guys, y'all are drinking champagne. Like y'all gonna put a house in the market and it's gonna be under contract within 24 hours. Or you might get 20 plus offers with someone offering their soul to get your house. Like it's that insane right now with the market. And being able to bring that to buyers that are trying to invest and realizing now just because of that, sellers are getting such an advantage that, hey guys, like not everything you see, you're not gonna be able to get the best actual, profit on based on. Some people are buying this home as their first home, so they're gonna buy it for more than it's worth. And you as an investor, talking about our profit margins and what you're looking at buying this for, well, we're competing against people that's going to overpay while you're still trying to make sense of it. And like being able to bring that kind of knowledge to the table is a big deal for some investors and especially buyers looking to buy their first home, what to expect.
Okay.
Yeah, the market, knowing the market is definitely a big portion. If you're selling the house, they may be looking to buy a house after they get done, or they may be in the process of looking to buy their next house if they're working with me to sell theirs. So that's definitely important. The market and just, the price ranges of the houses. A lot of people just want the game. Like I've had people ask me, how are you paying for these houses? What do you do? Like, you're so young. Like, how does this work? Like, how'd you get into this? I give it all away. There's no question that I won't answer when it comes to the sellers. If whatever they want to know, I'll tell them. So sometimes it's just about the industry in general. You never know. You might have a conversation with somebody. And I think I'm pretty sure it's probably happened where, they have a conversation with me about real estate after they, sell me their house, and then they go on and do more research. They may be looking to one day get into real estate. So I give that type of stuff away too. I have no problem doing that. If they don't care about that type of stuff, of course, we don't bring it up, but we can just stick to even just letting them know kind of what's going on, what we look for. Some people do walk around the house and say, okay, well, what are you guys looking for? When you go to a house, what type of repairs and things are you guys looking for? So they ask about that type of stuff too.
Right. Time in the market beats timing the market, right?
Every day.
Have you heard that before?
I have, yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
I just heard that yesterday. I thought I was gonna hit y'all with something.
I figured you
honestly.
said it 100 times.
I thought I was gonna hit you with something.
I think I saw it on Instagram.
Where I was like, yo, that's a dope concept. So when determining like how much a property's worth, determining the ARV and stuff like that, how do you go about doing that? Or does it always depend on like the market? Like depending, like, so if I'm in North Carolina, the ARV, okay, it's probably like 0.75, right?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. Let's not go over anybody's head though. ARV is after repair value. Right. So that's like what the house is going to be worth after it's fixed up and listed on the market. Right. They call that ARV, or after repair value. But I mean, then what you were referring to was like 0.75. That's kind of like what that you multiply by 75% or 70% or 80%, 60%, because that's the space you have to leave for somebody to flip the house. But when it comes down to it, this is something that maybe a lot of wholesalers don't know, or a lot of people in general don't know. Not every deal you have to stick to anything. There's scenarios where you can make different numbers work. So that is a good, that's a good, that's a good just tool to have, and just kind of mindset to keep in mind when you're negotiating per se. But I don't just hold myself to 7.75 or 0.7 because there are guys who pay more for houses because their strategy is different. There are guys who need the houses at dirt cheap because they take out crazy loans to pay for the flip. So there's a bunch of different strategies when it comes to figuring out the numbers.
A lot of variables that go into that.
Right. For sure, yeah.
And do you guys use the same thing as an agent, like when you're determining like the property value of a house?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's we do comps, and so you're like if you're looking at flipping something, what is this going to be worth? I'm buying at this price, and I need to make this profit. So like I can look at a property and I can find out comparables just like that property, what they're selling for that are fixed up, they're in good condition, and telling him, hey man, like, I don't know what you're buying this at, or what you're gonna be putting into this, but you can sell this property for this price if it's fixed up.
Okay.
And then they can kind of use that number to figure in where they're buying at, how much their money they got to spend for repairs, if that end game, profit's gonna make sense or not to them. And we'll do that for buyers and investors, making sure if buyers are looking at putting an offer on a house, in this market, people are paying overpriced for houses left and right. And I'm using comps to kind of tell them, hey guys, like maximum you can go over $5,000 to $10,000 as far as value goes. But even then, the famous saying's always out there. I don't know if you've heard this, but a house is only worth what someone's going to pay for it. And people are paying for houses way more than what they're worth right now just to win. And, but providing comps is the same thing.
I got another one for you. House is only worth what it'll appraise for.
Unless they waive the appraisal.
Yeah, that's true. I got to stick to those appraisals.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Wait, so
appraisals are terrible right now.
So what are so if somebody just listening to this podcast, and what are I'm trying to get like
comparable market analysis.
Yeah. So can you give an overview? What's comps? What are comps?
So let's say I'm just taking a property in Charlotte, all right, and it's on ABC Street. And so what I'll do is I'll go out as close as I can possible what has sold in the last 180 days right next to ABC Street right here. And I'll find, let's say it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home that's 1,100 square foot. Well, I'm going to find as many 3-bedroom, 2-bath, close to 1,100 square foot properties that are just like this one and what they've sold for, because that's initially bringing up, like telling you what the values are in there and what they're worth. And so, like, for instance, like my neighborhood right now, like we, I remember maybe 6 months ago, you were never seeing houses selling for, $280, $290. And just recently, I got a house on the contract for $295, listed at $280. It was on the contract $15,000 over. We had a house right beside mine that sold for $298. So now that these houses have sold for $298, $295, $290s, well, other houses like that, they're now worth in that range. They might have been in the $270s before, $280s before, but now they're going up because these are all selling for this price. And that's why you're seeing such an inflation in this market right now. So many things appraisals are being waived. People are paying these higher prices, and it's initially bringing up the values of all these homes by so much. And that's why a lot of people right now in the market are saying, well, hold off, this market is going to crash. These values are going to go all the way back down. They're going up too fast, if anything. And, but yeah, it's crazy.
Is that like a concept? Like if it's going up, if like the value of the properties are going up too fast, they're likely to go back down really fast?
There's always going to be an up and down in the market. Like it's inevitable. Markets are always going to change. They're always going to go up and down. But initially, like, I don't really foresee it being like it was back in like 2006 and 2007 when we had that big crash. I don't really see that being the case. Because back in that time too, like ninja loans were such a thing, no income, no job. People were getting loans so easily. And then foreclosing all those houses when that market did crash. We're not really seeing that in this time. I think there might get to a point, I don't hold a crystal ball, but I think we're going to get to a point where it's going to adjust a little bit and slow down maybe, but not right now.
Okay. So I want to go back to actually the ARVs. When you're assessing a house, what are kind of like the biggest repairs that you kind of look for? Like you go straight to the kitchen, see if the kitchen needs repairs, like the bathrooms. Like what are like the bigger repairs that you kind of need to look for when you're determining it?
The biggest ticket items are like the roof, the HVAC, and any foundational issues. For the most part, those are the top three that you start with, of course, because they cost the most. Other than that, any structural damage, I would say. Next, of course, you're moving inside. And then you are talking most houses, though, unless they're newer, they need renovated kitchens and renovated bathrooms. And then, of course, all houses need paint and carpet and those things. So it kind of trickles down. But, of course, those are the roof, the heating and cooling system, and the foundation are going to be like the bigger ticket items. But you really have to just look for everything because even a bathroom, when it comes down to this game, it's mostly a numbers game. So even if you're like trying to skip over a bathroom at first, or like, oh, that bathroom doesn't look too bad, you might spend $5,000 in that bathroom, and that kind of throws off your numbers. Right. So now you were thinking that you could buy at this price, put this much into it, sell it for this. Now you kind of threw it off $5,000, and then during the renovation, somebody messed up another 10,000 worth. Now you down 15. Like stuff happens like that. So everything matters, but the most expensive is looked at first always.
Right. And then you're looking at the roof, and what, like, when you're looking at like the roof, the stuff that like on top and stuff, what are you kind of looking at?
Yeah, so I don't get on roofs. I don't get on roofs.
Yeah, I know you don't, but you got the tennis shoes on, bro. I told you.
No.
Yeah, I know you got the tennis shoes on. I thought you go on the roof.
So there are a lot of strategies when it comes to investing, and one of the like most lucrative ones is to also be a contractor. I'm not a contractor, but if I were, maybe I'd get on a couple of roofs, but then again, probably not. I would just hire out. But anyways, so.
Do you ever bring them with you?
So yes. Yeah. So you can bring contractors with you when you go check out houses, and they're going to have a more better eye for stuff. When I look at myself, I'm looking from the outside to see how old it looks, because if it looks too old and you're going to flip the house anyway, you already most likely have to replace it. So if you stand back and it looks old, you might want to add that on your repair list. If it looks okay, you can't tell, maybe it's fine. Maybe it just needs paint. Maybe it just needs to be cleaned, stuff like that. Maybe just a rollover. But the other, like key sign is you go around the house, you look in the corners, you look on the roof, the ceiling, and you can tell if water's come through. You see spots on the ceiling. You'll know if the roof needs to be replaced, because when every time it rains, water gets through, or even one time. If it rained once and water got through, there's a good chance that the whole roof is going to need to be replaced. Right. It may just not be like you'll find people living in the house and you're like, oh, it's not that bad. It happened one time like a year ago. Yeah, that was the only time it made it all the way through your roof to get to make a stain on the ceiling, but it's coming in every day. Right. Every day it rains. So that's like a key sign. Foundation, I know I said that was one of them. You kind of just walk around the house. You can get under the crawl space, but again, I don't do that.
Right. Are you sure? You got the tennis shoes on.
You can get under there and look for like water damage, or you can look for dips or breaks in the joists and stuff like that. Otherwise, you can kind of just walk around the inside of the house and look for dips in the ground. Mm-hmm. So like also not necessarily like a squeak in the wood, but an actual dent in the ground, or maybe like a slant in a room. Kind of if you stand back and you see the room's kind of leaning a little bit, you'll know that's a foundational issue, like an easy sign. Right. And then, when it comes to HVAC, like, does the air work or not? Like, how old is it? That's another thing too. Right. Like a 10-year-old HVAC, you probably have to replace, especially if you're trying to sell it to somebody new. So you're like, how old is that thing?
And the type of, HVAC they have, like how it's heating up the house and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. How it's heating and cooling up the house.
You can save a lot of time just going there and just trying to cut it on, make sure it just cuts on. Right. Like that helps.
Yeah. We went to that house and we didn't even know the freaking the lights was on. Like the electricity still worked.
I was worried me and you was gonna fall through the ground.
That foundation was crazy.
Yeah,
that foundation was like.
I was gonna tell him, just like walking through a house, sometimes you can just feel spots in the ground. You know what I mean? When I'm walking through with the buyer and investor, while they're going through it, I'm kind of looking around my own stuff too. Just like he said, I'm going out looking at the roof, I'm looking at the corners of the ceilings, looking for those leaks, and kind of feeling the floor, making sure it's not like unlevel. I was just in one recently, and we go inside the room, and like I step in this one spot, and it just felt like I was like lifted up and off the ground. And sure enough, like I peeked my head in the crawl space. I didn't crawl in there, but I peeked in there, and I could see like a smart jack that was up in there supporting it. Like all these different things. And whoever did it, did like a cheap job. You could tell because it was too high, here, too low over here, and we definitely found that problem just by like walking through the house. And
oh my god!
The ground,
literally a smart jack just holding that thing
up. Supporting it. I mean, they had normal beams and stuff, but I'm guessing at some point something in that crawl space went wrong, and they had like a cheap little just get by fix done to it.
Like, let's just put this here; it'll work.
Let's just hold this up for a little bit.
Damn, bro, that's scary.
You see that in a lot of like we were talking about earlier, like with people that are landlords and they have a rental. A lot of what I see really common is landlords that they'll get a rental property and they'll get it just enough that they can throw somebody in it and collect some rental income, but then there's no upkeep. Right. And they'll leave it like that for 10 years, 15 years.
However long they can get away with it.
To the point where they're getting too many complaints, too many things to repair, and then it becomes like that headache to them that they don't want to put their more money into it. Well, it's this like rundown property that they just collected money from, and it's falling apart, almost, and because they never did anything to upkeep it. They spent so much time just trying to be cheap and get by on it. And then that's where he comes into play and saves the day and gets somebody back in there.
I see that a lot, honestly,
right.
For sure.
Yeah, what's some of the stories about that? Like, have you seen? You say you've seen that a lot. Like, what's
like worst looking houses?
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to worst looking houses, like they're houses that need to be torn down. So maybe not anybody living in them.
The house needs a new house.
Yeah, or, like I do come across houses that basically you just call them tear downs. I mean. You can maybe keep portions of the house up because, there's like different financing and stuff. If you're starting a brand new house, new build versus, they have that like funny saying where as long as I keep one wall up, this is a rehab. So it's like, I mean, that's the real thing, right? Because if you're trying to get, getting financing to build a new house, that's a little different and it's going to cost you different and it's going to look a little different than if you were just rehabbing a house. So they some guys really think that way or that deep into it. But as far as the worst, man, I think the worst are the ones where, kind of like he was saying, the tenant's there, and they're just living in such
bad conditions
that you're like, what's going on here? You got your tenants, you can barely walk through the house, or bug infestation. That's another thing. And these people are still renting the house. They may be current on rent, even if they're behind. Like, you got somebody living in a property that you own. And they're living like they're homeless basically, but they're living in a house that you own. Right. So that's usually the worst for me. I hate to see that. I hate to see people living in such lower end conditions when they're just trying to rent a house.
Yeah, it's sad because they need somewhere to stay. And you feel bad because like they're wanting to be there, but like they want these things taken care of, and some landlords just don't want to do anything to it. I mean, I remember I just did one. It was a few months ago, and we actually didn't follow through with this deal. He ended up buying a property in Columbia for an investment. It was a sixplex. But this was a duplex we were looking at in Charlotte, in fact. And we did our inspection on the property and found one of the issues where there was the heating unit in the attic had a leak, and it had like carbon monoxide like leaking into the house, and there was no detector in there for it. And so we didn't buy the house, but we said to the agent, like, hey, man, you might want to let the landlord know, like, this might need to be fixed. These people are breathing this in. Like, we don't know what kind of issue this is. And, like, he was so appreciative that we found it, to get that done for them. But, like, man, like, imagine we never said anything. Like, would that have been like a health issue for them long term? You know what I mean? Like,
die.
Yeah, right. Like, it's just leaking into the house.
That made me think of one thing, the mold. You see mold in houses with kids. That always strikes me. It always hurts me a little bit because they're growing up in these houses that they either have mold for who knows how long, and they're just breathing it in as their body's still developing. So I think that's like one of the most low things that you see.
When do you ever just say, like, you look at a house and just like, it's not worth it? It's just like, nah.
I guess like to the teardowns too. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I'm not in the new build game, but I'll just wholesale it away if it's a teardown.
Right.
But the only time I say it's not worth it is if the I think probably like just with the owners, the seller may be motivated, but or they may have a small amount of motivation, but their motivation doesn't outweigh their like realism. So they're unrealistic and they don't have enough motivation to become realistic. So I say it's not worth it. Mostly it's just the price. They may have a house like we just described, but they still want full market value for it or even more. You'd be surprised how many times I see that. The worst looking houses and the owner's like, yeah, I saw her house sell for $350 down the street, so I want $400
all day.
And I'm
you don't even know what type of repair she did to the house, and like you don't even know what.
Like, you want $400?
Right?
You want $400 for the house? With the mold and the bug infestation? yeah, I want $400. So
they're just neighbors.
Exactly. yeah, they're just neighbors.
You have 1,100 square foot. It's 5,700 square foot. Right. It's just neighbors.
Right. And so, what do people like? I know you've I know I seen a post about like the whole as is. Like, what do people like not understand about like when you're talking to them, like you're just giving it to me as is, like, and that determines how we're gonna structure this deal, and that determines how we're gonna get this house off. And like, when you're talking to somebody, how do you explain like a as is?
So like at least like my buyers, I'm letting them know like, hey, these people are saying this property is as is. Now when the post I put that says no one respects as is, it's just because like I did a deal once and they were like, hey, we're as is. It was actually in Gastonia, and my guys were buying it, and we did our inspection, and the issues that we found were just ridiculous. And my guy was like, look, if this can't get help, you know, I did not expect none of this. If I can't get at least some of this stuff done, I'm just walking away from the deal. And in North Carolina is a buyer beware state. Everything is due diligence, where they get a period of time to do their inspections, and they put a fee up front to the seller, and they want to walk away, they pay it and walk away.
That's usually 30 days, right?
Whatever you create. You create how long you want your due diligence to be. Sellers in some cases want it to be, of course, short as possible. We want it to be as long as possible for as cheap as possible.
Right.
That's kind of like up to me to negotiate that with the seller for my buyer. And well, we basically made a request, even though it was as is, and they said they weren't going to fix anything. We said, hey, we're going to walk away if this isn't fixed. And sure enough, they fixed it. You know, they gave us like 3/4 of what we wanted out of it, and we got the deal done. But like, that's what I mean by no one respects as is. Like, I get you don't want to do nothing, but at the same time, even if I flip the hats here and go to the seller side, I sold a property in Rock Hill, and they wanted to go as is. And I kind of like had to explain where we can go as is, but understand that if you price something and you say it's as is, people are going to immediately be aware, like cautious of the purchase. They're going to be like, okay, what's wrong with it? You know what I mean? So their offers are initially probably going to be lower. They're going to be a lot more cautious, and you're probably not going to check as many buyers. I say, guys, if we get this thing listed this price at like it's normal, just do it. I mean, it really wasn't that bad of a house or anything. They just didn't want to do any repairs. Well, sure enough, we got. I think we made $20,000 over asking on the offer we got, and the repairs they wanted us to do were only like $2,000 or $3,000. And so, like initially, hey, like we got so much money extra off this deal that $2,000 or $3,000 doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
So no one respects that.
Nobody respects that.
That's funny. That's crazy. I think when it comes to the whole like as is saying, people see it so much, especially when they are thinking about selling their house. That they just don't want to do anything to it, especially if they don't have any representation. If they don't have a realtor, they don't have any money, they don't have any contractors involved on their end. They just want to make sure that they're not doing anything to the house. So on our end, we of course pitch as is, and that's part of our part of like the service that I was describing earlier. So we usually don't have too much of an issue, like staying on the same. Just the same playing field as sellers when it comes to as is. The only issue comes when like in the explanation, like they're like, oh, why are you offering so low? You're lowballing. I'm like, well, like we said, we're buying this house as is. And that means we have to take into consideration everything that needs to be done. Now, someone like his case, if I were to just tell you, hey, this is what I would like to be fixed before I buy it, now that's not as is anymore. And that's not what you wanted. You want it as is, so this is what the offer reflects. So that's the only like divide.
You were saying something earlier too about like different levels of fear for some investors, like some have fear and stuff like that. So like it's really cool when you get one investor that understands what that means, and they truly like they go into the purchase knowing like, okay, as is, they're taking all these things in consideration. The offer reflects that, right? Versus the people I was telling you about earlier that they're working on becoming investors, but they see some little small issues and they freak out. You know what I mean? And they see as is, and they can't do it. And it's like they want to be investors, but they don't want to do what it takes to be the investor. You know,
nobody has time for that.
Yeah, right. Come on, man. Trying to walk them through it. Like
I feel you, man. You're providing a great service for not just people who are experienced, but also people trying to get started. So that's definitely dope. I don't even know if I have the patience for that.
It takes a lot. It does take a lot of patience, man. I never thought I was a patient person. I'm not a patient person, but I'm learning it. I am being patient, even though it's hard. You got to cater to people. I mean, it is a people's business. It really is, especially as a real estate agent. Being an investor, you don't have to deal with the whole public as much. You know what I mean? Right. You get to do your thing and get in and out, and I think that's awesome. And I've got to, switch roles to 100 different types of people a month, and be everything I can be for every type of person, whether they really get along with me better or not. And like I try to be as catered to them as possible. And it just kind of changes from people to people. But yeah, man.
Yeah. So when unless you have like contractors or somebody like my stepdad, like they're actually moving to a house in Nightdale.
Okay.
And so they offered it so low that my stepdad just did all the repairs himself. Like he took the carpet out. He put the whole wood floors. He granted the countertops. Like he just like one of those guys. Like just can do everything.
Hey, if you're gonna get the job done,
do it yourself.
Yeah.
Just cut the cost. Like
that's not common though. I've seen people who like you'll approach them. I'll tell them what the as-is offer can be. I'll tell them like what the max I can offer them. Like I really can't give you any more. Otherwise, even if I was trying to wholesale it, otherwise I wouldn't be able to wholesale it for anything. And if I was trying to flip it myself, I'd probably lose money. Like there's just not many options. And you want your money now. So I'm gonna let you go and you can go ahead and, fix it up yourself. You call them back like 2 months later and they did like one room or they didn't do anything. Maybe I've seen people like take the carpet up, but didn't do anything, didn't put it down. So now they got an ugly looking house and you come back and
they watch
just
way too
even
much
worse.
HGTV.
they think it's like so easy.
It's
And
not.
their wife's all mad. Like he started this job.
He want to do it. Like my stepdad did the whole crowning there. He did the whole room,
out.
the painting, all that.
He was
Like,
determined.
he's one of those people that can just like literally like, all right, this is how we do it. And then just lay it out. I'm like, yo, he's really.
They see 2 episodes of HGTV Flip the House, and
Yeah.
they're like, I can do this all.
Yeah,
like, this is
for
going to be
sure,
awesome. They get one room done. They're like, oh, man, I'm done.
They
Like,
think they can do it in an hour.
Yes.
That whole hour of HGTV that they can do
Exactly.
it. All that stuff is like months and
Yeah.
months of work to that house.
when I built my house 3 years ago and went to showroom, there's so much stuff I chose not to do. I was like, you know what, I'm going to do all this when I buy it. And I haven't done a single thing that I was going to do. Like, I've been talking about painting my house for 3 years. Like, I haven't even touched it.
That happened. Yeah, I've seen that too. For sure.
3 years.
I haven't even got picked up a paintbrush, man.
Okay, well, you're a busy man.
Too
though.
busy making money. over
Yeah, I
there.
was about to say you're a busy man.
You better hire somebody to paint the house, man.
I want to paint it. I was like, man, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna like come home one day. I'm just gonna start taping like throughout like the month. You know, like 4 months later, I'll be all taped up, and then like I'll just like paint. I'll just start painting, and then like maybe like in like another 3 years, I'll have the whole thing done. Like just paint.
Another 3 years.
Yeah,
Just go to Home
give it like
Depot.
30
Go to Home
minutes a
Depot,
day.
get a crew. Stand outside of Home Depot, say who knows how to paint, or learn how to say paint in Spanish, and just
Just like-
get some guys. They'll paint it
They'll
same
paint
day.
your crib.
You want it painted tomorrow? They got you.
I got a buddy of mine in Wilmington. He did his first flip rental property and his first burr.
Yeah.
And they did the work themselves. And he told me that it's the last time he'll do it himself. He said it was a fun experience. He had a good time doing it. It was really cool, but it took so much time. And for people like you that are doing so many investments, like that's a lot of time to put in.
For sure, yeah.
You would never do that yourself. Like you don't have time for it. Yeah.
I would never do that.
It's a lot. It took my stepdad like freaking months to do all that stuff, like mudding the garage and what else? What he did so much. I can't even think of what else.
And I get like it saves money too, but like I guess like that time versus money thing, you know what I mean? Like how much are you gonna profit per that?
Right.
And I guess like for someone that, they're not doing so many things and this is like gonna be one thing they're gonna do and like hold on to it, like yeah, I could see that. That'd be cool. But like for people that are like really doing this daily, buying this, buying that, like yeah, they're not gonna have the time for doing it. So being able to take that time to like know what you're gonna pay someone to get all this work done is gonna be a big key.
Right. So how does the market differ from the past, and how do you get your buyers and sellers to like know the challenges ahead?
Setting expectations up front. I mean, especially for what I do, it's all about setting those expectations up. I mean, when I first like talked to a client during that buyer's consultation or seller's consultation, it's like let them know, like for the buyers, like, if for a first time home buyer, someone looking to buy their first home and they say like, oh, like we don't want to be a part of like the seller's market. And it's like, well, no one else does either, guys. Your other buyers don't either, but this is what you're going to be going through.
Yeah,
This
you
is
want
what
a
it's
house right now.
Right.
Yeah.
It's rough waters. Like, I'm a good sailor. Hold my hand. We're going to get to the other side. You know what I mean? But you got to trust me and, like, setting the expectations. Like, trust what I'm saying to you. This is what you're going to be expecting. Things are in multiple offers right now. A lot of things are selling over asking. So if you're one of the buyers that want to come in there and you want to under ask on stuff and, like, be that negotiator, it's really not going to play in our best favor at this time. And, like, being able to tell a seller is like, hey, guys, you don't have to go spend $10,000 prepping your home to sell it right now. People are taking pictures of houses with calculators and they're getting sold. It's like, I mean,
Right.
like,
That's just the technology that they have now. Right?
Yeah, it's, and so just setting expectations is really just so they're not thrown off during the process about like, this just happened. Like, oh my gosh, like, what do you mean there's like 10 other offers on the house and I got to offer $5,000 over? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that throws people off. And I think if you expect, set that up first up front, it'll save you a lot of stress. And one thing I learned recently too is like, I've been driving myself a little crazy with how busy I've been trying to make myself where I'm telling clients like, hey, I'm available for you 24/7. You can text me, call me whenever you want. And well, they are. I'm getting texts at like 12 a.m., 2 a.m.,
right.
Like
sending that expectation.
5:30 in the morning, like it never stops. And like it gets to a point where like I was getting really stressed. Like I don't have a break. I don't have a single moment away from real estate. And I love the business so much, but I do want like some time to just be at peace sometimes. And so now like my new expectations, I'm telling clients like, hey guys, like if I don't get back to you right now, like just know that I'm going to get right back to you. And I'm usually, these are my hours, like past this time, I may not or may respond, and it's all about expectations right now, I think.
How do you feel about that, Dan?
From my perspective, it's more of like a balancing act, because, when you're dealing with sellers or you're dealing with people who want to sell their house, they hear these same things that everyone else hears. So they're like, oh yeah, well, the market's crazy hot right now. Houses were selling for 150 last year, but they're selling for like 500K now, right? Like the market's going crazy.
Right.
Like so if I offer them,
where do you live again?
If I offer them an amount that doesn't necessarily reflect like the craziness of the market, they're a little thrown off. They're like, oh, why aren't you knocking down my door? It's like at the end of the day, this is still an investment. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong. I've been able in certain areas, I've definitely been able to, offer more. I've been able to increase my offers in certain pockets, certain neighborhoods for sure at a fast rate too. Like 3 months, you'll be able to offer this, 3 months later, you'll be able to offer 10, 20, 30,000 more. So like that aspect, like I said, that's why it's a, kind of a balancing act, because you can work with them and you can reflect the market in your offers or in your approach. But at the same time, most people have such unrealistic or just maybe lack of knowledge that you have to make sure that you, like he said, set expectations and you're not just letting them fly, in their clouds that, they think.
Right. And so I think this will help out people a lot. Like, so what's the difference between a home inspection and an appraisal?
You want
Yeah, so that's a good question. So like, for instance, like an appraisal is usually you're going to get those loans. Banks are going to require their appraisal. Rather you've waived it or not, they're still going to go out and do their appraisal to determine what it's worth. And different loans, such as like, let's say FHA, for instance, or let's say a VA loan, a veteran gets a VA loan, their appraisals are going to require certain things. And so you're going to have a home inspection where, you're going to see everything you can find wrong with the house. And you can request what repairs or, what you think you should have done based on that. But at the same time, you're going to have an appraisal come out, find out what the house is worth. But for instance, like the VA loan, they may also find something. I always call them like the second home inspection. Yeah, they're always going to find some stuff that their loan will require the sellers to fix. And, VA's a little bit more stricter. Like they're kind of picky about like loose handrails, stuff like that. Like there's certain things that they will require to appraise, right? So I was going to say, appraisals can be kind of like a home inspection, but it's really just determining the value of the house. And
yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to just, let him kind of put his input because he deals with that so much. But from where we're sitting at, the difference is an appraisal definitely reflects, it gives more, kind of has more input on the market as well as the comps, the neighborhood. A home inspection is really specific for what's wrong with this house, what needs to be repaired for just this house. And some home inspections get, pretty deep. They want to know cost as well sometimes, like how much is it going to cost to fix everything in this house. The appraisal is going to reflect what needs to be fixed sometimes. From my perspective, you can add on that, but I feel like appraisals definitely reflect kind of repairs that may be needed, but it also is influenced by the rest of the neighborhood, the rest of the comps, the possibility for what it would sell for. You can still get a decent appraisal even if your house needs a solid amount of work, as opposed to that inspection report's just going to be the laundry list of stuff that needs to be done.
In a way, look at it too, an appraisal is like a very detailed comp, if that makes sense. Because I can go on a computer right now and run a comp in like 5-10 minutes, do a quick little comparable and kind of give you a rough draft. And the appraiser, he's going to really go into a long depth book on like what that appraises for. And then there is the cases where you get a bad appraisal. And, I have heard in cases where the agent will fight the appraisal, like in, let's say the appraisal comes back and says it's worth, way less than what they're selling it for. Well, if that agent, really did a good job and he ran comps and he knows for a fact that what he's selling for is worth it, he can back that up with his comp. And so you can put comp versus appraisal. And a lot of times appraisers, agree with the realtors and what they're pricing things at, but it is their job to go out there and make sure that there's no mistakes being made versus that price.
Right. And so what do you think is the most difficult part about being an agent or being an investor?
It's tough.
Yeah. There's a lot of, that long huff seems like there's a lot of difficulties.
I think, as an agent, all my time is with buyers and sellers.
Right.
I mean, all day long, not from 9 to, whenever I get off and I stop working, I'm dedicated to my buyers and sellers, and I'm really working all that time to when I make that sale, when they close on that property is when I'm finally paid. I don't get paid until that house closes. And so all my time is dedicated to that. As to where as an investor, all your time is making that residual income for yourself or making that investment make sense. Maybe,
Yeah. I mean, it's not all sweet.
Yeah,
but,
no, it's not.
But, everything has pros and cons, but when it comes to, just being an investor, being an entrepreneur in general, I think the biggest keys are always just self-awareness. It's all, of course, you got to have good time management. You got to be driven. So those are like the most difficult things. That's how you're going to get your success. You got to be determined. You got to be disciplined. If you want, to turn deals, multiple deals, a lot of deals, you want to increase your volume. Like you got to have a crazy amount of self-awareness in order to be successful in wholesaling and investing. So I feel like that's probably the biggest portion, because after that, the only next thing is like your people skills. If you got all the keys within, if you got all the self-awareness and you're constantly checking yourself, you're constantly improving, then you just have to have people skills. If you have them, that's the next thing. If you don't, you will struggle in investing and wholesaling, because you can't build relationships fast. You can't connect with sellers or buyers. You always meet those people who they just they think it's okay to just not be likable.
Yeah.
And then they want to do something like investing and wholesaling.
Or
and
try
it's
to
like,
sell you something.
yeah, or try to be a salesman. And it's like all your life you've been unlikable, and you think you were just going to step into sales or step into entrepreneurship and automatically turn it on.
Right.
You got to work on that.
Yeah.
You got to address that long before you're ever successful in anything, especially wholesaling.
And people are trusting you with one of the biggest investments of their life.
Yeah.
Housing is like one of the biggest investments someone will make.
Right.
They'll buy a $400,000 house. It's not like a $20,000, $40,000 car.
Right.
That depreciates. I mean, this is a big investment.
Right.
And I like that you said that self-awareness, man. That is huge. Oh my gosh, that's huge. I mean, so many people don't look over that and they don't even think about that. I posted the other day about my goal this year, was to sell 50 homes, and how I'm a little behind on that track, and realizing like, okay, where I'm messing up at, what I can do differently, what my process looks like, what's causing it to be slightly behind, and understanding that like I do make mistakes. Like I'm not the best. I'm not this, and being able to being your worst enemy in a way, like really being harder on yourself than anyone else is in the world, I think is really what it's going to take. And at least that's for me, No one's harder on me than myself.
Yeah, no one. Plus, you can't limit yourself. I think you gotta just like be super strict on yourself. I think that's a good word. You do have to be critical of yourself, but I hate to use the word hard on yourself, because it's like you got to be so positive that you don't want to look in the mirror and say too many negative things. So I get what you're saying though. Yeah. Definitely, I think just being critical super important. Making sure you're always checking yourself and then keeping everything in line, bro.
How important is it to have thick skin in this business too?
You gotta have everything. You gotta have grit.
You know.
I know.
Oh, where?
You gotta have grit. I think a lot of people, I guess, in the real estate side of the world, like being an agent at least, they watch Selling Sunset on TV, or they see $1 million listing, and they think this is just like the dream life, that you're going to come here and you're going to have all this flexibility. I don't have to, for one, I don't have to be at a certain place anytime. I don't have to really answer to anybody. I make my own schedule. I work as much or less as I want to work, but they think it's like this paradise life, and it's not the case at all. I think if you don't have thick skin and grit, and they're able to take rejection and constantly be just grinding the game 24/7, you're going to be really upset when you get into the industry. I see it all the time. I see people, everyone and their brother, sister, mother gets their license. I see so many people out here have a license. I think it's like thousands and thousands of realtors just here in this little local area. But like, how many of those people really are doing business? How many of those agents are really actually out here selling and buying houses and like being known for what they're doing? Right. And that's why a lot of them don't last, because they come in here have this expectation that it's going to be easy and that it's going to be like, you're just selling someone a home, and like it's so much more than that. I mean, especially for my team that I'm on, we see so much turn. Like we see so many agents come on, so many agents come off, and it's like only a few of us like still remain. Find those people that get the game, like they just get it.
Yeah. And so being in like you said, just like I was in jewelry sales. So that was like, I was selling rings and stuff like that, and just like that was my first actual retail job, or just trying to like say, like, you need this ring for like. I don't think we like a lot of people don't understand how important certain things like houses and like this is important, like saying that. Presenting that ring into your woman or whoever, I don't care, whatever. But I'm saying, like, this is like one of the most important things, and I don't think people understand how like important it is for you to make the other person happy, like you making your motivated seller happy or the buyer happy, like all of that. Like people don't really understand how important that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for us, at least in what I do, especially on the investor side, agents do it too for sure. But we deal with a lot of cold leads. We deal with a lot of people who may have been thinking about selling their house, but they may not have been expecting to talk to you that day. Now, if you scale your business or you get into those things, you yourself stop dealing with as many cold leads, but somebody has to deal with those cold leads. So you have to have thick skin. You have to be able to be okay with people getting hung up on you. You have to be okay with people cussing you out. You have to be okay with all types of things. You know what I mean? People just telling you just to kick rocks. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. I get it all, man. I get you're too young. I've gotten the race stuff too. Like I've had people, I could tell by the way they're looking at me. They're like, this little black boy doesn't know what he's talking about. Little do they know, I've probably made, whatever, like 10 times as much as them in the year, like not even on the funny stuff. Awesome. But it's like just, you get everything because those are defense mechanisms from people. And you just have to be able to let them slide off your shoulders. Like people might tell you they might be having a bad day. It's their defense just to tell you to kick rocks. You called them on the wrong day. It's okay. Like, I'll talk to you another day. I'm good. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Hopefully you're better. If not, I'll talk to you the day after that. Same thing with like when you give offers, it's not always sweet. Some people say if you don't feel bad about the offer, it wasn't low enough type of thing. I somewhat agree with that because, you don't want to cut anything out of yourself. Like if you offered an amount and they took it, you could have offered lower. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I've never been the person to just start off with a low ball just because. I like to be very strategic when it comes to what I start off with and what I'm aiming or goaling to get them at. So I'm not the type of person who just starts off with a low ball just because. Now it does depend on my feel for it. Like sometimes I've literally offered what I can get, and that's because I've gotten a feel for my relationship with the person, and I'm gonna go ahead and tell them this is what I'm gonna offer you, and you're gonna take this deal. I know you are because of our relationship, and it's not gonna go any higher or any lower. This is what it's gonna be, and they take it. If they don't, you adjust on the fly. But giving out offers, you gotta have thick skin for that too. And you got to be ready for it all.
And I think that's the turning point in the deal, in the structuring of like the deal, like where it's gonna go sour or it's gonna go like that's really the turning point of it. Just presenting that deal, right?
Yeah, you just got to be able to adjust on the fly, man. Because you'll think you have the best. Sometimes you'll think you have the best relationship with somebody till it's time to talk numbers. Yeah. And then now they hate you. Now they're like, who is this guy? You think you're about to go out for beers with the guy after you get done talking, and then as soon as you tell him that number, he's like, I never want to see you again, bro. Yeah. Don't ever call me again.
Don't ever.
And then I call him like, you know what? Let's work this out.
You can't underestimate how emotional people get when it comes to money.
Exactly.
Right. Money's emotional.
Yeah,
man.
for real.
It's emotional.
Especially, that's another thing too about the expectations. You can get it. There's so much in sales in this industry. Sometimes you gotta anchor that price. You have to maybe talk lower numbers before you give them their actual number, which would be higher than what you mentioned before. Like there's so much that goes into it, but sometimes you can miss some of those steps, and they could be waiting on your number, and they're thinking it's 300, and you're like, oh yeah, 110,000. They're just like,
jeez. I'm like, 110.
Ooh, we got a ways to go.
Yeah.
And they're like, get out my house. Don't talk to me again.
Right. They're from 300, that $200,000.
We're gonna be here in a minute.
Yeah, that one hurts.
Hey man, I got stories. I got stories on that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Stories for sure.
Man, these guys have been hungry in this real estate business. They've been very successful in this real estate business. They also have a bright future in media, because I just let y'all take the lead. Y'all been talking. Y'all been making that great information, giving that great information out. Y'all been great.
I can talk real estate forever.
Let's start a real estate podcast.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. For real. Like I had a whole bunch of questions, but it just went how it went. Right?
Hey man, look, I'm at a problem now where like I can't even go on a date with someone that's like, if the girl's not in real estate, like I don't know what to talk to you about.
Ooh, that's a deep one.
I don't know what to talk to you about.
You gotta get some hobbies, man. I don't know about that.
I don't like. We're gonna talk about MMA, gym, and real estate. What am
You
I
got-
gonna
what
talk about?
Right.
Got any other
Like,
business interests? Like,
Yeah, I mean, well,
you got any other business interests other than real estate?
no.
Okay, so you just gotta talk to her about
He's
real
all
estate.
in, bro.
Yeah, I mean,
all in.
Hey, all in.
Yeah, and she'd be like, "Why are you so stressed?"
It is
I'm just
tough.
Like I just dealt with like a multiple offer situation. I got a client waiting for me to call. You know, I got to put this offer in by 8:00, and just sitting here looking at you like, what?
And you can't decide what you want. Like,
yeah. I'll get a water though. Thank you.
Yeah. So where can they find you guys at on social media and stuff like that?
You can follow me at Garrett Smallz with a Z at the end.
Instagram is DNA_Dame. So it's DNA_DAME.
Mm-hmm. And so if any business inquiries, how do they get in contact with you? I know you don't want any business inquiries on Instagram.
You
but
can email me at Garrett, GARRETT @StephenCooley.com. Stephen with a PH.
Just hit me on Instagram, man.
Is you on Instagram? Okay.
We can talk about it
Investor
wherever.
Life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean,
right.
once again, if it's something serious, I'll give you my email. I think my email might be in my bio. So if it's something serious, we'll talk then.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay. So I like to end it off with just something positive, guys. So like, what would you tell yourself if you're in real estate? What kind of advice would you give yourself 5 years from now?
You first.
What advice would I give myself 5 years ago?
Yeah. No, well, 5 years from now, like when you're just like this big mogul.
Oh,
Yeah. What would you give yourself?
um,
Wow. Gotta be
I would probably tell myself to just stick to your roots, remain yourself, don't change. Remember why you do it and who you do it for. I would tell myself just to never get comfortable, no matter how much money you see, and probably just take care of the fam.
Take care of the fam.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I would just tell myself, stay sane. Keep focused on why you're doing this, where you started at. I remember looking back and like where I am right now. I used to pray about this, man. I used to pray to be where I am right now and dream of it as if it was like some goal that I could never reach. And like here I am now, like that's expanded so much further. And then just realizing like you wanted this for a long time, and just keep going. You know where you want to go. You have the vision, and just stick to it.
Right.
You're gonna get there.
Remember when I talked to you when you first tell me you was about to go into real estate, when you getting your real estate license, I was like, you're gonna kill it.
When you talked about that,
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, I was like, man, you're gonna kill it just because of that interaction.
That's
I already
crazy.
knew what time it was with that, so I'm glad that you're at where you're at. I'm glad that you're at where you're at because that's
Sure.
it's like it's so in and out with the wholesale and stuff like
Yeah.
that. You can be in it, you be like, I can't do this.
Yeah, same revolving door that you
Right.
was talking about. I mean, people come and go, man, and it's okay. It's like people figure out it's not for them
Yeah, it's all right.
because once you actually get started, that's when you kind of have to see what it takes or like what you would have to do, maybe the things you would have to change about yourself in order to be successful in it. So just like that, it's going to kick people right out as soon as they see those things.
Right.
Do what you love, man. Do
Yeah.
what you
Do
love.
what you love.
So,
Sure.
Do what you love.
Oh, by the way, I used to cross Dama back in the day too.
No, that didn't happen.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Anybody that's watching
Okay.
this knows that didn't happen.
Hey, man,
Anybody for
this guy
Ryan.
literally put me to sleep at the gym.
He's
bro.
lying.
He
He's
like
freaking
Now, when it
lying.
comes,
out,
when it comes to
bro.
all that stuff, I would not
choked
mess
me
with
out.
you
I couldn't
guys.
breathe.
But
I was out.
He's lying. He faked me out. We were grappling one day, and then oh my god. Anyway. He pissed me off a little bit. I was like, because it was so like
look on your face,
it's so
though,
scary.
man.
Because we were grappling, and I was on the choke, and he just like
just went limp.
I
I just
limp.
went
I'm
out
like,
like
oh, and then he just started laughing out of nowhere. I'm like, fucking asshole.
that's
God.
hilarious.
But yeah, I used to cross up Dame. With Push Up Head Podcast, we out.